Welcome everybody. I'm speaking to Carole McKeracher today, and Carole's going to explain to us all about channeling. Carole, welcome. So nice to see you. Thanks for joining me for this conversation.
Hi, Gabby. It's really fun to be here, and it'll be a fun conversation. What is channeling?
It sure will, because it's something that people aren't sure of what that is, or maybe find that odd, or, it's not really something that's in the mainstream, although there is people that are very well known for doing exactly that. But yeah, so let's unpack channeling. So for yourself, Carole, how did you get into channeling? Tell us about what it is to you and how you got started.
Well, I can only really talk about my journey. And as you say, there's a lot of people out there channeling. There's a lot of different ways of channeling, and everyone has their unique style. Everyone has a unique way. Well, everyone has a blueprint. So everyone's going to channel in their unique flavor, in a sense. So what is channeling? uh, I could make it kind of simple because that's a huge conversation in itself. But the simple way to look at it is that if you really just imagine that we're all interconnected, everything is part of the all. So we're part of one singular, in a sense, all minds are joined. So channeling is connecting with that field of consciousness. So we can't be separate to it. It's there and available to all of us. So it's just a matter about connecting into that, and your for me, I connect with the guides that I work with, and so they're part of that consciousness. Does that make sense?
It sure does, and I totally feel that way. And I think anyone that does any sort of spiritual practice becomes very aware of that kind of one cell organism that is consciousness, and that we
Yes.
are all just tapping in and out of it, and tapping into different levels of consciousness, and how we just interpret it, whether that's just through ideas or art. I think
Mm.
anyone that's artistic also knows that sense
Yes.
of something's coming through you, then you're creating it with your logical analytical mind, which you're not. It's coming through past that
Yeah.
sort of level of intellect and an intuitive. Would you call it intuitive?
Well, you give it all sorts of names. I mean, what is channeling? In a sense, someone, as you say, that is painting a beautiful painting that is just so in the moment, they're channeling a level of consciousness that is perhaps not really what they can describe as their rational minds. They're tapping into something. They go, where did that painting come from? Where did that song come from? Where did that poem come from? That we all have the ability to channel, and we're all doing it all the time. It's just a matter of whether you become conscious and aware of what you're tapping into. So the it's something, it's not a skill that's bestowed upon only the few. We all have that. So it's just about really focusing your awareness on it and letting it expand and grow.
Yeah, and I think anyone that's had a major something big in the world, if they've been interviewed and asked these questions about where it came from, they always have that. It just came through me. I think I watched Elizabeth. She wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
Oh,
With
yes, yes.
what's her last name? I can't think of it.
Gilbert, I
Yeah,
think, isn't
Elizabeth
it?
Gilbert. Yeah, she did a TED talk about it like dropping into
Yeah,
her consciousness.
yeah,
And J.K. Rowling, she was like stuck on
yeah,
a train, and then the whole idea
yeah,
of Harry Potter came
yeah,
through her. John
yeah,
Lennon famously said, "I didn't write Imagine, it just came through me." And so we hear this over and over again, and they don't put the words channeling around it, but that's really what we've come to, what you and I understand, and what you definitely
yeah,
understand working as a
yeah,
channel. So, Carole, how
yeah.
about for yourself? What got you started?
Yeah, that's a funny, it's a great question. And so I think, like many of us that are on the spiritual path, when I was a child, I couldn't figure out how we were taught that we were the only beings in the entire universe, in the end, that existed. And I just couldn't imagine that all of these if you just take planets and you just take all the stars, that we were the only beings in the cosmos. So that was kind of a thought that really stuck with me as I was growing up. And I was always interested in channeling, listening to other channels and connecting with that kind of information. But I never put it on my vision board and went, oh, well, you know, I'm going to become a channel. It just didn't work that way. And I don't think it works for most people that way. It just really evolved on my spiritual journey. I did lots of courses, read thousands of books, you know, started using my intuition and tapping into my inner guidance, and started doing readings, healings, all sorts of things, massage and hands-on healing. And that really started to evolve and getting messages for people. And along the way, I was really drawn to what I call meditative writing, or what a lot of people call, you know, intuitive writing with spirit. And so immediately I felt a consciousness that wasn't my rational mind. And so I just was really happy doing that. And did that for many years. It was kind of like my own coach. And so then, of course, as we go along on our journey, we have different points in our journey where we're kind of forced to dive even deeper. And I had an experience where life felt very hard. You know, lots of things weren't right, and I'd had an accident. I was in physical pain, emotional pain, and that's when I was really pushed into diving deeper in myself. And that's when my angelic guides, the Elohim, just kind of showed up and started speaking to me, and that's where it grew from there. And evolved. They said very early on, we're giving you messages, but we want you to share them with others. And I had no idea how that would happen. And that's kind of great, because my mind didn't get involved in it. And that's how it's really expanded and grown from there. So
Wow.
that's the start of it.
Yeah, right. Really showing up like that. And then how did they, and how does it work? Like how did they show up? Did you see them, or just feel them, or hear them? What was
Well,
it
kind of,
about?
it was more for me that I just felt this energy. It was like, I just knew they were a collective consciousness. I just knew they were speaking to me on a level that was outside of my mind or what I could think. So I kind of knew that. I didn't see them. I don't necessarily see my guides. And the energy that came with it was so loving and so wise that I thought, I really can't just ignore this. There was a moment where I thought, oh, I've gone crazy. I've tipped over to some aspect of myself that, you know, but it just became so loving. And every day I started writing and getting information that was really helping me expand and really forcing me to go deeper within myself. So I just continued. And it's the one thing about the spiritual path, isn't it, that you would know that it always evolves. It's always growing and expanding. So you never arrive at a point where that's it.
No, you don't. And it
List.
does. And yeah, and then it's, yeah, exactly. And also you get to those places where you want to stay there, like if you're in a meditative state and you get that real, I just, you know, I feel so, you just feel so alive, like aliveness that you never felt
Yeah.
before. And then it passes, and then it's like, how do I get back to that?
Yeah.
And then, but you
Yeah.
have to keep going, and there'll be another moment of like that in the future. And
Yeah.
because maybe you make subtle shifts to feeling different, or feeling a different sensation or a different energy, that you then become more like stable in it, more grounded. That's my
Mm.
experience. But But so
Yeah, no, I
how,
like that.
yeah, how does channeling work? So when you do you sit and make that intention in a meditative state, or does it flow through you at any, or do you have some kind of control over when it comes through? Explain a little bit about that. How it,
Yeah, well, I can only talk about how it is for me, because it would be different for every channeler. But there's so to explain it, it's a good way to explain is when I first started, as I said, I was really writing. So I would go into kind of a sort of a semi-meditative state, and just really take a pen and my journal and let the energy flow through me into words. So that started that way. And then what happened was that I started to speak to others what they were showing me. So what I call that interpretive. So I would be sitting here, there'd be someone in front of me, and I'd be saying, the guides are showing me this, the guides are kind of wanting me to pass this on. And what I found was that that took a long time. So the person might ask a question, and then I was interpreting what the guides were showing me in pictures and words. And one day I just said, this is taking too long. And I just said, I will just close my eyes and see what happens. And they just started speaking through me. And I never really looked back from that moment. So that was kind of what they were waiting for me to do.
mm,
And so there's no longer that interpretation. And I explain it that I'm both a listener and the speaker at the same time. So I'm listening because I have no idea what I'm going to say. And when I first started like that, part of my mind could still think. I'd be thinking, oh my goodness, where's this going? Or I wouldn't say that, but now I barely think, I'm just listening along with it. And so, but I'm very aware. I'm not aware of myself in a sense, a little bit like when you're in meditation, when you feel like there's no space around you, you have no idea where the walls are. And I feel like that, but I'm very aware that there's a consciousness flowing through me. Does that explain it?
it does. It's interesting. I mean, I haven't really experienced that personally, but I've followed Abraham Hicks for many years. I've been to
Yes,
many Abraham Hicks
yes,
presentations, and I think people don't realize how much they're being influenced. Even if you haven't listened to Abraham Hicks, the influence is very
yes,
vast. Anyone
yes,
that uses the word manifestation or
yes,
law of attraction, it's definitely been made, didn't come from that source, but it's been made very popular by that source.
yes,
And I know that I've heard Esther say that she kind of just moves aside and it just
yes,
comes through her, and
yeah,
it's just an energy, an expression of consciousness that's coming through.
yes,
And I know she's been asked about what it is to be a channel, and it's no different to being a sports person and shooting a goal, like you're in the moment and something
yeah,
is, a force is kind of, and then maybe people would say something different to that. It's like, well, that person's trained and
yeah,
trained and trained, and
yeah,
and they have technique and physical
yeah,
ability. But I guess I think I'd really put it with the artistic side of
yes,
people, because
yeah,
even though you can practice that as well, but something about that just flows. And or even just when you just have ideas, it's like, where do those ideas come from? They just, especially if you look back over your life and you've had an idea and then another
yes,
idea and another idea, and it's like, oh, how did I get here? Oh, that string of
yeah.
ideas led me down this way. And
Yeah, it's
so
wonderful when you have that experience, isn't it? When you think, how did I end up here?
and with your work, Carole, what can someone expect from visiting you as a channel or going to one of your classes? What's the sort of thing that would happen?
Yeah, well, actually, I'll just go back to what you were saying about Abraham Hicks. Is what's so wonderful about Esther and her work is that in some ways she's brought it to the mainstream. And because, as you say, anyone that talks about manifestation or law of attraction, it's like they've really brought it into the mainstream. Channeling is not so woo-woo to many, many people now, because it's been around since time began, you know. And so often we, yes, can think it's very woo-woo, but in a sense, it's just part of life. And for people who channel, it's just normal. So it's wonderful that she's really brought it out into the mainstream. So, and as you say, so coming back to what people can experience is that, see, channeling is not just the words. And yes, the words are important, but it's also the energy that you experience, because channeled information contains light, it contains healing, it's the words, so people really feel an effect. A lot of people say they feel energy shifts within themselves. So for me, when I'm giving, say, a session one-on-one, so I will give the person my intuitive insights into what I feel is happening for them right now while they're coming for the session. And then I will bring the guides through and they speak directly to them. So it's like having conversation with me, but I've got my eyes closed. And so they're speaking with the guides and they feel energy within their body. And most people would say that they have such a shift in their understanding of their life, like all the dots come together because the guides give them such a broad, expansive insight into what's going on. So that's the way I can describe it. So
Yeah, I know for me, I felt that it's like the energy, it's like something's awakening in you that may have been dormant, like this
yes,
energy
yes,
feels lighter,
yes,
or you feel, or maybe
yes,
you like let something go, like, but just being in the presence of when you channel, I know that feeling for
yes,
myself, that the
yes,
energy just becomes lighter and clearer and just more clarity around. Even I know that I've come to you and I've had questions and then they've kind of gone away because they don't
yes,
match what's what's
yeah,
coming through. It's like, oh, what a thing I want to ask. Oh, I guess it just didn't
yeah,
matter or wasn't relevant or it wasn't
yeah,
essential. But yeah, and I will just I'm glad you said that about, you know, Esther and Abraham, because I think that's been, you know, something so huge in consciousness for that to be so. I mean, it's really, when I saw her at the town hall in Sydney, there was thousands of
yeah,
people
yes,
queuing up
yeah,
to get inside, and also
mm.
in LA, I went to one of her
Oh, wow.
her you know, sessions, and it was
Yeah,
the energy is just, everyone's
yeah,
laughing. I mean,
wow,
you can't explain it. You have to experience
yeah,
it to know
yeah,
what that's like to be
yeah,
in a room with that going
yeah,
on and people getting up, and there's so much
yeah,
fun and
yeah,
joy and comedy. It's so comedic.
yeah,
And I know I sent you that clip about Joe Rogan and Josh Holmes talking
yeah, yeah,
about her and about channeling themselves. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, I never would have thought these alpha males would be sitting there having a conversation with Abraham HIcks. And then Joe Rogan wanted to get her on the show even. So,
yeah,
and I really appreciate that
yeah,
she doesn't do any like media that's going to be against her, because that would just ruin
yeah,
the vibe. She just sticks to doing her workshops, and
yeah,
yeah, and that's all she ever really does. But
mm,
if you want to see her, you go there
yes,
and experience.
yeah, cool.
And it's something, yeah. So let's, like, what can we say about that? What is it about that you can't, it's like indescribable. You have to experience it. Like no words can describe, you know, when you go into a room with a channel and when somebody's
Mm,
coming through and that vibration. Yeah, I guess it's just,
yes,
yeah, what would you
it's
say?
sorry.
Yeah.
It's interesting because a lot of people at my, especially when I do groups, people say at the end of it, oh, I had a question I was going to ask them, but they answered it right at the beginning. Or, and they'll continue, people will come up at the end, oh, I didn't ask a question because they answered them all. And it's interesting because they're speaking to the consciousness of the group. So some people don't even know they have a question before they arrive, and so the guides are answering that question for them. So I may as well just have very briefly mention the guides that I work with. So I call them my team of galactic guides. I've in the end come to that realization. I just call them my team of galactic guides because I channel quite a few different councils, collectives, if you like. So the Elohim were my angelic frequency that opened me up, and then I thought that was it. You know, like Abraham or Bashar or Jay-Z Knight. Would just be one energy that I channeled, but no, not for me. And so next came a being who calls herself Ishtaria, and she's part of a collective from the Sirius frequency. And so next came the Sirius Collective Council, the Arcturans, and then the Council of Nine. So they would be termed in our terms as non-physical beings. So they haven't lived on this planet. They don't have bodies like we do. They're light beings. And so say, for example, the Sirius Council, they align with a particular intention and frequency of experience. And they align with that star system. So it's often hard for us to, it's often unexplainable how they experience, but I see it as they are just standing on a hill and offering us a much broader perspective. They're not here to tell us what to do. They're just really here to uplift humanity. And there could be many people like me who are channeling the Sirius Collective, and each one would have a different flavor and experience. And that comes down to all sorts of factors, including the channel, him or herself. So does that explain it?
Yeah, and it definitely would, because I know that you say it comes through you, but then it would still have to match your ability with
Yes.
language or
Yes.
like,
Yes.
so your knowledge to find the words to even express their
Yeah.
energy. So I get that. I get that it's not going to be, it's not like, what you channel is only because there's 8 billion of us and the universe is ever expanding and infinite, and there's many, many different perspectives. So it's not, I think in humanity, for some reason, we've built this black and white perspective. It's either this or it's this, instead of it's many, and because that's kind of something about there's control when it's pro or anti or good and bad. It's like you can like compartmentalize it. And maybe that's the way the intellect likes to operate, because it's always trying to problem solve.
Yes.
And so that's kind of what mass media is always putting out there, that kind of, one or the other. And it's at the extremities of black and white thinking, which is just not, truth is closer to the middle, and truth will be a bit of everything. And yeah.
And we all resonate with particular, because we have a unique blueprint, we have a unique experience of this life. Something that resonates with me may not resonate with someone else. And it's not right or wrong, as you say, it's not black and white.
Yeah. It's just that experience, and it's so individual. And I think deep, if you go, the further you go along, and if you have an open mind and you want to understand people more, it's like you understand yourself more. You do like spiritual practices to understand yourself more. Then you have just more compassion for how people are, and how you just only want to understand them and accept them as well, to bring you all, move us all forward.
Yeah, that's what I love about the guides. They're so inclusive and they're so loving, and they've certainly, I certainly feel that I've grown into a better, more loving, inclusive person through my experience of traveling and being taught by them, really, connecting with their energies. So, yeah.
And how about when you tell people you're a channel, is that a conversation starter? If you meet
It can be, or a conversation stopper. I remember, I don't know if you heard of Lee Harris. He's a great channel. He channels disease. I thought, and I really resonate with this. If you're at a function or a party, or you don't actually want to talk to someone, just turn around and tell them you're a channeler. They'll move off. Yeah, it can. Yeah, I think for me, I used to keep it secret. I used to go, oh my gosh, I can't tell anyone. And but now it's just so normal that yeah, it's normal. And if people resonate, they do. They don't, that's fine. You know, it's like someone saying I play football and I don't really resonate with that. It's like you can still be interested, but yeah, it is sometimes on a different level. People get a bit freaked out.
I wouldn't know what to say to someone that played football either. That would be a conversation stopper for me. I struggled.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm just curious, like, as you came out of the so-called closet, like not wanting, did that change for you too? Just being expressive and expressing who you are, and were you met with a different response, or is it more that you just didn't bother you, whatever the response was?
Yeah, I guess it's been a journey. I think now it doesn't really bother me as such. It's people resonate or they don't resonate, and I'm not here to push what I do onto someone. It's just not that kind of experience, really. It's not that kind of work. So it's, yes, I feel that yes, it can benefit people, but they're either drawn to it or not. So yeah, it doesn't worry me so much now. Not that it particularly worried me, but it was something that I went, oh, I hope they don't ask me what I do. Now I don't think about that as much. So
yeah. And Carole, is there anything else that people wouldn't know about channeling that you could tell us? Yeah.
Well, it's because it's interesting. When I first started to do it publicly, people used to say to me, oh, can you teach me how to channel? And I'd say, no. And in some ways, it felt a little strange, because it was like, it's such a unique experience. It's such a personal experience. But interesting now, I've actually put together an open to channel course. And why I say that is that because I've come to the realization that no, we all have this skill. We're all capable of channeling, and it looks different for everyone. And no, I can't teach someone because I can't critique someone's channeling. But what can be taught is of removing the blocks that stop us from receiving that. So for some people, they simply may just want to connect more to their inner guidance. For some people, they may actually want to connect with a guide that they either write with or just feel the presence of. So it's really evolved into feeling that that's something that I can help people with now. And yet at the beginning, it was interesting that people used to say, oh, can you teach me how to do that? And I'm thinking, well, I can barely understand how I'm doing it myself to be able to teach someone that. But now it's really evolved over the years into understanding the principles of it and the metaphysics of it, really. So did that answer your question? Sorry, it may not have been.
Interesting. Yeah. And so you're going to be teaching a channeling course. Is that coming up?
So I just got this one day. I just went, that's it. It's all come together. You know, open to channel, be a 6-week course, 6 sessions. Obviously via Zoom these days because of the state of the world, and really just exploring what it means for each unique person and removing those blocks that stop us from experiencing that flow, because it really does expand our awareness of our life. It's interesting that I could say my physical world, my physical life, my experience of me in 2020 is far more expanded from being allowing myself to connect with other frequencies. So I think that's one of the greatest advantages of connecting with our inner guidance and opening to channel whatever that looks like for the particular person.
Yeah, okay. So you're going to be working on moving the blocks so you can even just get in touch with your creativity,
Yeah.
intuition, whatever's kind of blocking that creative channel, that intuitive channel, that just like more of a deeper sense of knowing your path or your purpose, or yeah. Oh,
That's the great word, the purpose. You know, we all, it's interesting, I think so many of us call out to the universe, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? And you start to really get in touch with that as you really open your, I call it, we open our channel, which is opening ourselves to our inner guidance. Because the thing is, we all have inner guidance. If we didn't, we really would be separate from everything. And that's kind of the line that really connects us with the all. So the more we expand that channel, the more in touch we are with other frequencies and expanded experiences of this life. So it's wonderful.
Oh, it sounds fantastic, and I think everyone knows that feeling of purpose, unless you're fortunate to find your purpose or find. Well, I was watching David Attenborough's new doco
Yes,
on Netflix,
yes.
which was. Have you seen it? It's
No,
really.
that's on my list.
Oh, it's so. I mean, it's frightening, but just him, and he's 94. He's so animated. He's talking at the UN. He's got so much energy still, and
Yes.
it's really his letter for his experience from his 20s, doing what he's done. He's just gone from one thing to another. I mean, he's just he's had an incredible life. And I always think,
Yeah.
how did he get that incredible life? I think we all do when people are really successful, they're really passionate about something, and it's like it just goes on, and you're like, how do I get that? How do I line up that path? But just but maybe you just need to do Carol's channeling course, and then you're on your way. So Carol, when's that coming up for you? When's the start date?
Well, that starts on 27th of October.
Okay.
And yeah, so.
And it's on Zoom. And
yes, so it's on a Tuesday night, Australian time, so 2 hours. So it'd be a combination of my teaching, it'd be energy work, be channeling with the guides, and Q&A and exercises. And so it's going to be really evolving, and in a sense it'll be created from the energy of the group as well. So it can't be a linear experience, but it'll be very comprehensive, and I really feel that people will get to know themselves better.
Yeah.
And so that's my intention, and to really have fun with it, because it is a fun thing. You can't be too serious.
Can't talk with your notepad and pen and try and figure it out.
Yeah. Oh, well, when am I going to be able to channel, and who, it's yeah. Friday at 4 o'clock.
And I'll be adding the link to where to find you on the YouTube notes. But just if you wanted to say what your website is, if people want to get in touch.
Oh, it's my name, Carole McKeracher. That's Carol with an E on the end, Carole, and my surname is McKeracher.com.
Okay, great. And I'll definitely add that link too. So hopefully you'll have a full class and be inspiring people to get in touch and become more. Huh?
It's got to be lots of fun.
Lots of fun.
And very deep but light.
Yeah.
Light.
Carole, thanks so much for your time. I've really enjoyed learning a bit about channeling, and yeah, all the best. I hope to talk to you
And
again soon.
yeah, and thanks, Gabby. It was wonderful. Lovely to be in your energy.
Oh, same as you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.